What is up, everybody? Welcome in. Now, before I even start off today's video, I have to let y'all know that the subject matter is going to be a little bit unsettling, a little, sexually vulgar, if you will. And it says right here, factual and scientific sexual education is not against YouTube guidelines. So YouTube, this is factual and scientific education. Please do not nuke me. But I'm still going to dance around and use YouTube speak just for safety reasons and to, maybe make this video a little less hard to watch. But anyways, now that I got that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Now, initially when I planned on making this video, I thought I already had the information that I needed and I already knew where I was going to go with this and I didn't need to do research, but I figured, alright, I'll be a good YouTuber, let's just go do some research, make sure there's not like some stuff I should write down and add, and oh boy, it is way worse than I thought it was. There's so much more information that I didn't have, that now that I have all of it, I have to make this video. I was just gonna write, I've been writing down bullet points and stuff for video ideas, and I'm like, nah, I have to record this right now, because I just kept typing more shit on there. But yeah, man, it gets deep and it gets dark. For those of you who can't read a title, this video is about circumcision and infant body mods. Like how they pierce babies' ears and do things like that, which is just like an add-on at the end. But the main thing I want to get into is circumcision, because that shit is barbaric and whack. And yeah, anyways, let's just get right to it. Now, just for a little personal backstory and information, yes, for the record, I am circumcised. But I didn't even know that ever happened to me until I was like 12 or 13. And, I started exploring on the old hub, if you will. And I came across an uncircumcised member, if you will, and I didn't understand what I was even looking at, so I started doing Googling, and then I just randomly learned from the internet, yeah, there was a whole other part of my penis that they just decided to chop off and throw in a trash can when I wasn't old enough to even understand what was happening to me, because vague hygiene and medical reasons, apparently. So yeah, not only did they mutilate me without my consent when I was a child, but they didn't even do the hey buddy, just so you know, there used to be a whole other part of you that we chopped off and put in the trash, because I don't know, I guess because your dad had it happen to him, and because I don't want to teach you how to clean it, or whatever their excuse is. But anyways, yeah, just need a little backstory. So eventually, after the fact, I don't remember exactly how, but I ended up asking my mom about this, and that's literally what she told me was hey, well, your dad had it, so we wanted you to match your dad, which that's already weird. Alright, you wouldn't start doing surgery to your daughter's labia so it could match her mother's labia. That would be really weird, right? And that's another reason I'm making this video, is because of the whole double standard of it. But then the other reason was apparently you can get UTIs or whatever because you if you don't clean it properly, which is also insane. I mean, it's hard to get behind my ears all the way clean sometimes. Should I just hack them off? I don't know, trimming your nails is tedious. Should we just get some pliers and rip my fingernails off? It's the only example of preemptive surgery. We're just gonna remove this so that way there might not be a problem in the future. I guess there's wisdom teeth, but that's its own rabbit hole. But yeah, essentially they gave some bullshit reason. And the bullshit reasons have changed throughout history. So now we're going to get into some actual bullet points, and I'm going to start spitting some real facts at you. So buckle your seatbelt, maybe don't grab a snack, but yeah, let's get to the rest of the video. Now, where did this practice come from? Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with the fact that it's a Jewish tradition and is done for religious reasons, but I'm not Jewish, and the 80 to 90% of men my age in America aren't Jewish either. So how did non-Jewish people end up practicing it? Also, the 80-90% in America, yeah, that's because in pretty much every other civilized country they don't practice this, and uncivilized countries, and pretty much everywhere besides America it is done for religious purposes, and it's very rarely, it's just the few people who do it for a religious reason. But I digress. So how did we end up doing this outside of Judaism? Well, it actually originated in Victorian England around the same time that they were practicing things like bloodletting and all kinds of crazy backwards medical practices. And basically the idea was that it would stop you from masturbating and sexual debauchery and whatever. So basically, we don't want you to use your wiener, so we're just gonna like mutilate it, and then hopefully that will stop you. So that was literally the entire idea. And since it is a very painful process, and even today in the medical industry, we don't use anesthetic for it. There's like, it's excruciatingly painful, and people like argue against it, but in what I was reading from like the Victorian documents, that was actually a feature. It was like, yeah, so if you like traumatize them and give them like a super painful experience with someone touching their wiener, then they won't want to touch their wiener or whatever. So literally they were using trauma as a tool to control you sexually. And then magically, after the sexual revolution, that just stopped being a fact, and suddenly now it's actually doesn't affect your sexuality at all. Okay, the whole point why we started doing it was to destroy your sexuality, but after the sexual revolution, now suddenly it doesn't, even though it is a medical fact that circumcision is cutting off 10,000 to 20,000 nerve endings. So yeah, you're gonna cut 20,000 nerve endings off of something, but that doesn't decrease feeling, and it's not going to affect anything. Don't think about that one. It just shut up. All right, shut up and let us mutilate your child's wiener. And then the rest of the reasons for these include hygiene, because it's apparently really hard to clean under it, even though it's fused, just like how your fingernail is fused to your finger. Throughout most of your childhood, it's fused on there, so you can't even get anything in there. And then when it does start to peel apart, all you have to do is pull it back a little bit and wash it. It's not hard. It's really not. But even then, like I said, if it's hard to clean my feet and they start smelling bad, do I cut my feet off? No, I don't. I figure out how to clean them. You as a parent do a better job at teaching your kid how to care for themselves. And not even that, the studies on this are completely skewed. One of the main studies that is used to argue for like the hygiene thing, boatloads of people dropped out of the study before it was finished, but B, they weren't strict about using or not using condoms, so the circumcised group used condoms more just like by coincidence, and then obviously their score was better because they used condoms. So really that study was about condoms working more than it was about circumcision being effective. So yeah, so that's one of the other reasons. And then another reason, one of the last ones, I think there's more, but I'm not going to get into all of them, is women's preference. Okay, going back to, this is a weird conversation to have with your mom, but I was like drunk talking to my mom about this, and I was like going off about it because I'm like passionate about this. And she's like, I did it for you because I wanted you to get a blowjob, because I wouldn't give a guy who's not circumcised a blowjob. Once again, crazy conversation to have with your mom, but like we're like both adults and like halfway drunk at this point. It like wasn't as weird as it sounds, but like, yeah, is that not insane? Like, in Africa, they practice, circumcision on women, doing all types of mutilation, even sometimes cutting off their clit. And everyone agrees, wow, that is like really barbaric and horrible. And like the fact that men have a preference for that is sickening and disgusting. And like, yes, it is. So don't do it reverse to men. Like, what? Like, you're telling me you would really look at a guy and be like, nah, you didn't like surgically mutilate your wieners, so now I feel nothing for you, and I will not touch you and give you affection. Be gone, you disgusting cretin. Come back once you've been mutilated properly. Like, what? If that was reversed, feminists would be rioting in the streets and like burning stuff down. Like, if I went on the internet and was like, yeah, I would never touch a woman that didn't like cut her labia off with safety scissors, like, I would get doxxed, canceled. There would be feminists throwing Molotovs at my front door. Like, the sky would fall upon me. Are you serious? So now, let me spin it back a little bit, back to my point about if this was happening to women and it was reversed, everyone would go crazy and it would be a giant problem and we would have probably stopped it by now. Well, another thing I learned in my research, female circumcision was legal in the United States until 1996, but was banned because it violates human rights. Performing it now is a federal crime. So yeah, I didn't know that. So they used to do that to women in America until literally the late 90s. It was way less common, but it was legal and you could do it. But now it's a federal crime because it goes against body autonomy and and it violates human rights. That's literally what the thing I read said. So it violates human rights if you do it to women, but it's fine if you do it to men. And there was a book that was written by a woman who had that happen to her, and she had let's try to make it YouTube friendly. She was having extraordinary sexual experiences, or like not extraordinary, but let's just say she was doing hoe stuff, all right? And she said that she had a realization that men with the sexual barbarity and these like different things, she realized a lot of it probably isn't that it's just that they're men and men are weird, but it's that 90 to 80% of men in America have been circumcised, and that is sexually traumatizing. All right, that lady had sexual trauma, and a bunch of dudes are doing weird stuff because they have sexual trauma. Because yeah, that leads into my other point, okay? It is way more brutal than people think it is. Everyone's like, oh yeah, they probably just like snip snip and then it's done real fast. No, bro. Circumcision is done without anesthetic. And like I said, it's fused to the head like how your fingernail is fused to your finger. So, the first step of circumcision is you have to get this freshly born child erect. So that's also like already barbaric and weird. People don't understand that. So yeah, they gotta give Jimmy a little like flick of the bean so his thing goes up, right? And then what you have to do, since it's fused, is you have to take this little tool and you have to jam it in there and like literally like rip it off. You're like ripping fused skin from other flesh that it's fused to. It's like, yeah, think about sticking something under your fingernail and prying it off. That's essentially what they have to do first, and then they have to cut it. Like, I encourage you to go watch a video, because I looked it up, and I'm good with squeamish stuff and gore stuff, and I could not finish the video. I, like, physically could not. I did not realize how next level barbaric it was. So I'm going to stop going over the actual process because I don't want to talk about it. I don't think YouTube likes it. I don't think you like listening to it. If you want to know more, we are on the internet. You can go find out more information. But yeah. So now that we've gone over how barbaric and brutal this is, another argument is like, oh, well, they're like freshly born. You don't form like, memories until you're 2. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, that doesn't mean you're not traumatizing them and like screwing them up, bro. Okay, just because you don't have like coherent like visual memories of like XYB and a narrative doesn't mean that you're not being traumatized. Like, there's studies that show that you can like genuinely fuck up your kid by not like holding them enough. Okay, you're telling me taking them freshly born, you just cleaned the juices off of them, you're gonna tie them down to a thing, and some random dude is going to give them a boner and then just start mutilating their stuff. Alright, so when kids are in their formative years and they're like figuring out what reality and what they are and whatever, you're gonna teach them that because someone is bigger than them, they can tie them down and hurt them sexually, like literally hurt their private parts, and that is A-okay, but B, the doctor does it and it's normal. So you're going to normalize, big grown men having their way and violating them and literally hurting their private parts. So that's now ingrained in them now. And then B, like I said, not holding your kid enough can, like, fuck them up in many ways. You're telling me giving them, like, a crazy, brutal, beyond comprehension sexual experience like that, and, like, yeah, it's not sexual, it's medical, whatever. Okay, they gave you a boner and they started mutilating your wiener with no anesthetic. Okay, like, imagine, like, whatever. I don't care how freaky you are. I don't think anyone is down for that. Maybe, like, you know, if you remember the BME Pan Olympics in, like, 2012 or whatever. But I digress. Alright, you're telling me that's not going to traumatize and mess up that kid. And yeah, going back to what that lady said in her book, yeah, she thinks a lot of these negative, like, male sexual, commonalities or whatever is from the fact that 80 to 90% of men have been circumcised. So literally, they were, like, brutally traumatized. It's literally like, be born, alright, you just now figured out what, like, sucking on a boob is. Now we're going to brutally violate you. And, like, that's now in your brain, and you're taught that that's fine. Alright? Sexual trauma is very damaging. I don't know if you listen to the song "Prison Sex" by Tool. It's about, I'm not gonna explain it actually. Just go listen to that song, read the lyrics, figure out what it's about. But it's about the abuse cycles and how the traumatized traumatize other people to, like, get the monkey off their back or whatever. I don't know, man. I'm, like, just kind of rambling right now. But, like, dude, this happened to me. This is happening all the time, alright? We have, all these people complaining and, like, freaking out about, like, transgender surgeries and whatever. And, like, yeah, I don't think children getting transgender surgeries and stuff is okay. But there's, like, 500 transgender surgeries a year between, like, adults and children, alright? There is 3,000 circumcisions a day, alright? And that's, like, the people that are against that, their whole thing is like, stop mutilating children's genitals. What's wrong with you? Well, yeah, then can we stop mutilating, like, the large percent of every man ever? Like, at least when you're, like, 12 and you want to get gender reassignment surgery, you have the concept of, like, yes and no in what is even happening. You could at least, like, kick and scream and protest or something. You at least fathom what is happening in some fucking form. But no, little Timmy, just frickin' mutilate him. It's fine. It's because, like, medical stuff or something. Oh yeah, and I almost missed a big point that was on this bullet point, and it actually affected me. Okay, when I was young, I used to absolutely, like, freak out and scream and cry and cause a scene whenever I'd get a shot for, like, a vaccination or whatever it was. And they actually had a study on this, and they came to the conclusion that they're like, so what's, like, the determining factor? Why do, like, some kids just, like, absolutely, like, freak out? It's because you're having a PTSD reaction from the last time that you were hurt at the doctor when you were a small child. Like I said, that stuff sticks with you. So and that's what the conclusion they came to is that the biggest denominating factor or whatever, I think I used that word wrong, but the biggest factor between the people who freaked out when they would get their shots at the doctor were circumcised. And you're having a PTSD reaction because, yeah, bro, the last time the doctor did something that hurt, they were mutilating your genitals. Like, you're literally giving children PTSD and sexual trauma. And, like, I wish I wrote more bullet points and had more information. I need to find that lady's book and, like, put it in the description or something. But that's also where I got this other information from. But, like, yeah, a lot of the things that are wrong with men in America, it's because they have PTSD from sexual trauma that was given to them by the doctor, which their parents were charged a boatload of money for, and they were psyoped into believing is medically necessary, even though it's not at all. Okay, every point that has been made has been disproven, or at least they can't prove why it is factual. So yeah, we are literally sexually traumatizing and mutilating children at 3,000 victims a day, and that is fine, and you should pay for it. And the reason that it doesn't come out is because A, people are making a boatload of money. Obviously, they don't want that to change. But B, if the discourse became like public and big around this problem, well, guess what? If it turned into some kind of class action lawsuit or whatever, 80 to 90% of American men are a victim. We could all line up. Dude, the class action lawsuit would be fat. Like, me and all the boys would just be spending our lawsuit money just like balling out, man. They couldn't have that happen. If they had to take responsibility and everyone realized how barbaric and cruel and messed up and medically unnecessary it was, that'd be a fat lawsuit. And oh no, boy, we can't have that. So we have to just continue down the cycle, even though most of the people that do it understand that it's medically unnecessary and just fucking stupid. But anyways, I digress, and I'd like to move on to my next topic here. Now to my second point in this video. So we went over how barbaric and horrible and cruel that is. Like, we all understand that. And you're doing that to children who have no understanding what's going on. They couldn't form the word no if they wanted to tell you no. And then, way less barbaric and kind of, it's weird to transition to because it's so light. But, they also pierce babies' ears, right? All the time. Pierce babies' ears, which is another thing that you don't decide, your parent just decides to do to you, and then they just modify your body without your consent, right? And that's not even like that terrible. I'm not like freaking out about that. It still is body autonomy, and like, you probably shouldn't do that. You should at least wait until you can ask them, like, hey, do you want earrings? And they can go, yeah, or something. But now we bring it back to, okay, so having your ears pierced is socially acceptable, right? And you can do it to children without their consent because it's so like normal and whatever. But see, I have piercings that aren't in my ears. They're in like creative different places. And like, I understand, like, I have like a gauge septum, and that's like, pretty crazy. But some people just have like a baby septum or just have like an eyebrow piercing. And you can't get a job majority of places because of that, right? So if you get your ears pierced, you can force a baby to get its ears pierced without its consent. That's fine. No one blinks twice. All right. And like, every grandma has earrings. That's fine. No one like tells grandma she can't get a job because of her piercings. But if you put piercings in a creative place that isn't just like super overdone and very socially acceptable, now suddenly you can't work like entry-level jobs at like majority of places. Like, I am halfway fucked out of getting like a regular job because I modified my body in the way I like to. But they mutilated my wiener and traumatized me as a small child, and that's fine, right? Now, we go back to, so I was like 12, 13 when I figured out that, someone mutilated my wiener without my consent, right? So when I was like 15 or 16, I wanted to get my ears pierced. And my mom was okay with it, but, she wanted my dad's permission. And my dad said no, so I wasn't allowed to get my ears pierced. But once again, I'm a fully sentient being, and this is what I want to do to myself. And they wouldn't let me, because my dad said no for whatever reason. So it's like, if I was an infant and they wanted to do that to me, it would be fine. But I'm 16, that's old enough to like, there's people who were like leaders of armies and conquered countries at 16 all throughout history. And no, you can't make that decision, because what if you regret it or whatever? Like, regret it? Like, if you do that to a child, there's nothing to regret because they didn't get to make a decision in the first place. Like, are you... All right, let me calm down and organize my thoughts. Hold up, give me a sec. So let's just get this straight here. Let's like break down this logic. All right. So if I have holes right here, that's fine. I'm just regular, that's fine. No one tells you can't have a job if I put holes right here or like right here, whatever, right? That's acceptable. But if I put holes right here or right here or right here or right here or right here, whatever, now suddenly you are a degenerate piece of shit and you are not qualified to work a basic entry job. And yeah, it's just a PR nightmare. You are just a walking PR nightmare and you are unhireable. And then, so now our next point of logic. So I can't consent to getting my ears pierced at 16 when I am like fully coherent and like most of the way to being a man. I cannot consent to that. But without my consent, when I just started existing like a couple hours ago, they can, without anesthetic, brutally mutilate my privates and traumatize me from like, you know, the most formative part of my entire existence can just be getting brutalized traumatically without my consent when I can't even like form consent if I wanted to. But no, if you are 16 and you want your ears pierced, your daddy and your mommy have to be okay with it, because what if you regret it? What if I want whatever percentage of my wiener back? What if I want that back? What if I regret that? Oh wait, no one thought about that. No one cares. All right, because the medical industry is making a boatload of money, and women won't give you a blowjob if you're not mutilated. I just can't. Anyways, I'm probably gonna end it here because this video is already longer than I wanted it to be. But moral of the story: circumcision is whack. Figure out the laws on body autonomy. Is having piercings okay? Is it not? Do you need consent? Do you not? Do you have to be old enough to get body mods, or can they be forced on you from an infant? Like, can we make some kind of a coherent set of rules here? I don't know. I'm literally lost for words. Damn, I really rambled this video, but thank y'all for sticking around to the end. I appreciate that more than everything. If you want to touch the stupid buttons down there and press them all, that would be super sick. If you want us, support a sexy Nordic boy on his journey. But yeah, wish y'all a amazing rest of your day. Eat ass, skate fast, all that good stuff. Peace.